Over the years, Game Freak has introduced us to many different features. No matter their popularity, most are either taken away or get reworked, leaving us fans saying,
"Hey yo, what the fuck?"
Hi, my name's Kingly, and today we're going to be discussing features I think need to come back to mainline Pokemon. In my last video, we covered features I felt needed to stay in the mainline games moving forward, which made me realize there are features from previous games that I miss. So kicking off that list, let's talk about full party experience share. Now you may be thinking, but that's already a feature. Well, yeah, you're not wrong, but starting in Generation 8 with Sword and Shield, we lost the ability to toggle this on and off. It became a key item with permanent effects, and while Junichi Masuda has explained that the reasoning for this was to make leveling up easier, I'm curious if the question ever crossed his mind, do all players actually want this? Maybe it's just my age showing here, but I miss the grind of training Pokemon throughout a playthrough. Now, don't get me wrong, as I explained in my last video, Nature Mints, affordable vitamins, ability changers, and even experience candy are huge quality of life improvements, especially for the competitive scene. However, I know I'm not alone when I say having a sort of difficulty setting, like the ability to toggle experience share on and off, for a general or even a challenge playthrough, isn't that much of an ask. Next, let's talk about dynamic seasons. This feature debuted, and subsequently died, with Generation 5. For me, this was a really neat way to mimic the weather patterns of the real world and made the game feel more immersive. Deerling and Sawsbuck's whole gimmick was centralized around it, changing forms depending upon the weather. However, starting in X and Y, we returned to status quo and only got different parts of the region that represented seasons. A specific example of how dynamic seasons feature could be implemented back into the mainline Pokemon games again is from a fellow Nintendo franchise, Animal Crossing. Not only do they have seasons change depending upon the time of year, but they also have insects and things that will only spawn in specific weathers. This prolongs the amount of time you spend in the game, which to me, seems like a win. You want your player base to be invested in your game for as long as possible. Imagine only being able to encounter certain ice types in the winter, certain ground or fire types in the summer. Heck, what if you could only encounter certain water types during a rainstorm? Essentially, they just need to expand upon what the wild area and DLCs did on a full map basis while allowing for real-time sync of seasons. Up next, we have the topic of ball capsules. For those of you out of the loop, these are stickers that can be stuck onto a Pokeball, and when sent into battle, there are added effects such as confetti or letters that accompany the Pokemon. These were introduced in Diamond Pearl Platinum and brought back in the remix BDSP, yet have been excluded from all other entries, which feels kind of odd. Especially when Gen 7 and 8 were so heavily focused on giving the player trainers the freedom of expression through different clothing options and even the ability to change your throwing stance, it would have made sense to have that added freedom of expression through ball capsules. Though, to be fair, the one downside of the ball capsules were the letter stickers, as players could spell out explicitives. However, why not just exclude them? Problem solved. And while we're on the creative train, bring back the ability to change all our own clothes. It was such a letdown in Scarlet and Violet when we had to have some form of our school uniform on at all times. Thematically, I get it. But again, after Gen 8 when we had all the freedom in the world to mix and match different clothing options, it's a bummer. Now, a feature that actually got mostly taken away but also re-implemented and reworked probably for the better by way of picnic powers is Pokemon abilities having outside of battle effect. Now, I'm not saying we need to get rid of picnic powers, as I think they were a tremendous upgrade. I do think they're great. But let's take a Pokemon with a Lightning Rod ability as an example. Having a Pokemon with this ability in the front of your party increased the chances of trainers registered with Pokenav in Emerald to match call you twice as much. And in Sword and Shield, the encounter rate for of electric types was raised 51%. Listed on screen now, you'll see all the abilities that have outside battle effects and which Pokemon took advantage of those. You'll notice that 5 abilities still do have uses in Scarlet and Violet, that being Flame Bunny, Steam Engine, and Magma Armor, which decrease egg hatching times, Honey Gatherer, which allows a chance for a Pokemon to be holding honey after a battle, and Pickup, which is essentially Honey Gatherer but for all items. Let me reiterate, I'm not suggesting we go back to only having one boost at a time, as meal powers have been a godsend. I just wish there was still outside of battle uses for abilities, giving Pokemon more purpose than just battling and sitting in a PC. One feature that I've missed, and I feel like a lot of people can agree on, is using different Pokemon for different tasks. Don't get me wrong, it's been super nice to have a Koraidon or Miraidon to glide, ride, climb, and swim on, but after a while, it's felt redundant, if that makes any sense. The first instance we even got of using this sort of feature came around during X and Y, where we got to ride around on Go-Goat and Rhyhorn, while in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, we could fly on the Mega Lattes to land on different islands, though, again, this is restricted to only 2 Pokemon. The games that I felt did this the best were Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, and to a lesser extent, Sun, Moon, Ultra Sun, and Ultra Moon. In the Let's Go games, if you wanted to fly around on a Charizard, no problem. Swim around on a Gyarados? Absolutely. Clutch to Snorlax's stomach? Why not? The variety of Pokemon you got to use for the transportation was excellent. In the Alola games, you at least got a designated Pokemon for each type of transportation. Game Freak, give us back our variety! Next in line, let's discuss bringing back Shiny Sparkle variations. During the Sword and Shield era, I'm sure some of you missed the fact that there are 2 types of Shiny Sparkles that can appear when you encounter a Shiny. You're going to have about a 15 out of 16 chance of having a Shiny Pokemon with the starred Sparkles show up, while a 1 in 16 chance you'll have a squared Sparkle Shiny show up. Being a Shiny Hunter myself, now that we've had this sort of rareness tier added to the Shiny Sparkles, I feel like we should expand upon this idea and add even more. I would make tiers as follows: most common Sparkle, slightly less common Sparkle, slightly more rare Sparkle, and the rare Sparkles. This would add another level to what's arguably the most popular pastime amongst the hardcore fans of the community. A trend I've noticed ever since we left the Kalos region is the lack of unique gym designs, and frankly, this just could be my age showing, but the lack of a challenge to them. Alola gets a pass because the concept of gyms doesn't exist, but coming back to them in Galar was a bit lackluster. Really, the only gym that is memorable to me off the top of my head is Kabu's Fire-type gym, where you had to team up with a random trainer, and the first person to catch the wild encounter got points, during which time the other trainer would attempt to knock out your Pokemon. Even then, it was just more of an annoyance than a difficulty, but I did enjoy that concept. As far as Scarlet and Violet gyms go, there isn't one that comes to mind that's overtly hard or memorable. Simply talk to the gym consult, do a quick task, defeat the gym leader, and then get challenged by Nemona. Rinse and repeat. While yes, I am kind of harping on the lack of a challenge, the idea of this section more centers around uniquely designed gyms. I recently played through Black 2 for the very first time, and I have to say, Drayden's gym is one of the coolest gyms I've ever seen. Riding a dragon's head all the way to the top was an unparalleled experience. Other creative concepts that pop to mind just from that playthrough alone are Roxy's downstairs garage band setup, Skyla's airport wind maze, and Elisa's techno-styled roller coaster ride. Some of the more popular concepts during my research of all the gyms included Bugsy's creepy crawly spider web coaster, Tate and Liza's spinning rotating tiles, and Sutoplus's ice shard labyrinth. Bringing back more of the creative side of the gym designs would give this mandatory staple of the franchise more life and feel less mundane. In my last video, I highlighted one feature Pokemon needs to abolish, which, if you want to find out what that is, I'll leave a card above and at the end of this video for you to check out. So I thought I'd highlight a new feature that should be added going forward. I present to you the Horde's Charm. This charm would only be received after completing the National Dex. It would increase the chances of seeing overworld Pokemon clustered up in a horde of 5. I envision this pairing very nicely with a Shiny Charm, adding to the odds of encountering a Shiny. And I'm just going to love with you, I'm no mathematician, so I won't pretend to propose odds for it. Leave a comment below of the odds you think could work best. And while you're down there, go ahead and smash that like button. Let's try to hit 25 likes, as it really helps me know you're enjoying the content. And if you found this video worth your time, consider hitting that subscribe button. Later!